Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I'm your host, Jay Cluett. On this show, we've been through the entire Deep Blue Sea trilogy, scene by scene. Now looking at some Deep Blue Sea adjacent films. That's films directed by Rennie Harlan, featuring sharks or lots of aquatic action. And this week is very much in the aquatic action category because we're in recent movie territory. Last year's film, Avatar: The Way of Water. We're diving straight into the second part of this franchise because the first part didn't have a lot of water. The second part has all the water everywhere. It's in the title, The Way of Water. So what is Avatar: The Way of Water? Well, as I just mentioned, 2022, sci-fi sequel, directed by James Cameron, catering by, score by, produced by. He does everything on the sets pretty much, and starring everyone from the first film: Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Sigourney Weaver, Stephen Lang, Joel David Moore. What's his name? Dilip Rao. But adding in Kate Winslet, Cliff Curtis, Edie Falco, and a bunch of kids who we'll go to the rest of it, because this is a continued story of Jake Sully and Neytiri, who Jake Sully is now a fully fledged Na'vi on Pandora, and he's married and they have kids, and they have to go into hiding because they're under attack from the cloned Colonel Quaritch with the old memories implanted in him, who's out for vengeance as Pandora is being terraformed, essentially. So they have to go and live with the water folk, the water tribes, and live life there. So we need someone who is going to be able to describe what happens in this film more eloquently than I just did. So she has become our James Cameron correspondent because she joined us for The Abyss. Did you join us for? Yeah, you joined us for The Abyss.
I sure did.
And she's now back for Avatar: The Way of Water. And looking at Jim Cameron's TV, she'll be back at least twice more because we have two other films of his that deal with a lot of water to cover at some point. And she's the perfect guest for this episode because the exercise is so much. I'm sure she's pretty much part Na'vi herself. It's Heather Baxendale-Walsh. Heather, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me back to the show. And I am so excited that at this point in my life, I finally become a James Cameron expert, recognized by the entire world as a James Cameron expert. I've only recently delved back into the Titanic world because my 6-year-old's obsessed with it too.
And that's one we've yet to cover, although I feel like we'll be covering it today in some capacity.
There's
a lot of Titanic in this film.
There really is.
When full spoilers. When they're on the boat and they're being handcuffed to a railing and it starts to sink and it's tipping up and there's people being sucked through holes and areas being flooded and the boat's flipping, and I was like, he's done it. There's a band playing at one point, and how much Titanic are we gonna get here?
What we really needed was Bernard Shaw to show up at some point, and then we could have definitely had the connective tissue because I was like, I have seen this before. I mean, it's fine. It works for the scene, but I have definitely seen this before. And we waited how many years?
You haven't got the shot of Fabrizio being crushed by the funnel, but you've got a bunch of guys looking up as a giant whale lands on them. There's so much Titanic in here, and I adore Titanic. So I went into this not having seen any trailers. I didn't know much about what was happening other than it's more Avatar, and hey, I like Avatar, so I'm always happy to see more Avatar. And for it to become Titanic, I loved it so much. But there's so much aliens in here as well. This is James Cameron's playing the hits a lot in the third act of this one.
It really is. And there's Abyss stuff going on. I mean, it's just all of his goodies kind of put together here. And I'm not complaining about it at all. That's not a complaint on my behalf. I, like Jay, was excited that we finally got the next Avatar movie, and I was delighted to see it. Did you get to see it on the big screen?
I did, only just because this came out in December. I didn't get to see it. That's always a busy time for me, just life-wise, December. But then the week between Christmas and New Year is my favorite time of year because my work shuts down that week, but my wife's doesn't. So I have this kind of I'm home, but I've got all this time. And I was like, great, I'm going to go and see the cinema. And on Boxing Day, I got COVID. So, so I just was housebound for a week, my favorite week. I just couldn't go anywhere. But it was, it's a big film. It was still playing for a while, so I did get to go and see it after I tested negative again. Uh, and I saw it in 3D. I kind of regret seeing it in 3D. Um, I, I I don't see many films in 3D, and this one I kind of found it off-putting.
Really?
There's a few bits where, like early on in the when they're in the jungle, uh, third of the film, there's like Neytiri's behind a branch, and I'm just trying to like look around the branch that's blocking my view of what's going on, and it just felt distracting to me. And then by the time you're like at all the everything in the water, and it's just kind of depth, it didn't really. I felt like it didn't add anything. I don't know. I've seen it twice now at home on TV or on laptop or whatever, and I enjoyed it just as much as in cinema. So I feel like I didn't need to spend that extra £1.50 to go and see it in 3D. But
Okay, I'm actually going to disagree with you on that point, and I'm not a big fan of 3D either. I have one regret of a movie that I didn't see in 3D, and that was Dread. That's it. That's it. And I typically won't go see a movie in 3D if the option is there. But I remember seeing the first one, and ironically, I saw it with Brosnan when he was just a little guy, and it was his first movie in the theater, and we saw it in 3D, and it was just me and him. And I remember when the ashes are coming down from Home Tree, watching his hand go up and my hand go up like they were going to fall on our hands. It was a great, great moment, and it was really cool. I don't think it was as effective this time, but and you can definitely appreciate it without watching it on TV at home. I was still just enamored with the depth of all of the CGI. It's incredible. It's just, I mean, it's spectacular is what it really is.
it truly is. Yeah.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the 3D aspect of it. It was a bit much for Adam. He was 6, but he sat through a 3-hour and 15-minute movie and he loved it. So I mean, yeah, you can say what you want, but that was what I was giving everybody as a review. I'm like, my 6-year-old loved it. What? I'm like, yeah, he was fine with it.
Did you see it in the high frame rate at all?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool.
And again too, it was, I don't know, I kind of get lost in it, and it's structured so, I mean, this movie could easily be an hour shorter, but
no, it couldn't. It would be so much less if, like, because
exactly
the hour short. It's a 3-act film kind of where you have they're in the jungle at the start. They're being like insurgents. They're causing havoc on all the sky people coming in and trying to wreck the place, as well they should be. They should be fighting back against these horrible people trying
Indeed.
to wreck their land and just setting about with flamethrowers and torching everything. So you have like that third, which ends with Quaritch has got to take out Sully, and so Sully and his family.
Jake Sully. I can't say his name in my head. You're Sully.
They have to leave their the what are they called, the Hallelujah Mountains where they live. You got to leave those beautiful fly mountains and just head somewhere else, and so they head to the water. The second act is learning how to live with the water people, and then the third act is just 1 hour long fight action Titanic sequence. That middle
really is.
that middle hour and a half is where you would cut things if you were going to cut things. But that's also the best stuff.
That's what I thought too. I felt exactly the same way, and I think you're kind of on the same page with me too with kids in movies. I usually can't stand when they throw kids, teenagers in films. Can't stand it. And when I knew that this was going to be more about the family than Neytiri and Jake, I was all bleh. And I was so wrong. I actually really enjoyed all of the aspects of it. And you're right, the second half was absolutely the best part of the whole movie. And there was just moments of stillness. And we don't get that as much as we used to in film. Everything is go, go, go to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And you still have the building tension. You still have all of the worry and concern. We're going back to Quadric and his cloned avatar, which was just ridiculous in a fantastic way. I was so happy Stephen Lang was back. I didn't realize that he was going to, and in that capacity, because I tried to read as little about it as possible, because I never believed that this movie was actually going to come to fruition anyway. So yeah, it was a wonderful surprise.
So you just started about 20 different topics I want to get to. So I'm going to try and circle back and get to them.
I know, but you are talking to me.
Sure, and this is perfect. This is great. It's how I want it to be. Listeners, if you're one of those people who didn't like the Avatar films and is hoping to listen to some people complain about them, you've come to the wrong podcast. I'm sorry. But yes, about the kids first. I completely agree. I normally don't like kids in films. Like the the Jurassic Park franchise. The first one is kind of the only one that I like the kids in. The rest of them I'm just waiting for these kids need
Even
to get picked off. They never do. But my
even the
theory,
first one in Jurassic Park, I loved him, but I would be totally fine if Lex had gotten eaten.
sure, they're frustrating. They're annoying. Tim gets
Yes.
electrocuted. And that's kind of like a good yes. Uh, Please be quiet for a little bit, you child. But my theory with the kids in Avatar: The Way of Water is that if this wasn't an alien film, if this was entirely human characters and it was like a human family had to move from like New York to Florida and learn a new way of life there, and but everything plays out the same, we would hate everything these kids do. We would get so sick of them. But because it's like a whole new world, and it's learning this new way of life, and it's just alien creatures and beautiful landscapes. We kind of allow it because it's I don't know why, but just because it's aliens, it's fine. It's alien kids better than human kids.
I have
And
to agree. Because I don't have a better explanation for it because they still do the same things that kids do in movies, which by the way is not really the fault of children. Children are children. They're
yes, they are.
I have a few myself and I can tell you right now I love them more than anything on this planet. However, they are a pain in the ass regularly. They have no place in stories. You'll never read a story written by me where a child is the most important character. It will ruin everything. But it does. It works in this. And it's maybe for the reason you say. I couldn't possibly know. And teenagers, they're always written so hatefully. And I'm like, did you guys forget what it was like to be a teenager? Not all teenagers are exactly this way. Some certainly are. But I thought these were aside from, and I'll mess up all of their names because I can't remember the kids' names, but Loak, aside from him, the rest of them were, I felt, gentler as far as the rebellious nature of to the parents and their roles and not listening and doing the wrong thing for the wrong reason. And he really wasn't that bad.
I think all of the children, they're all Cameron paints with a broad brush when it comes to characters, and that's fine. Like people here kind of fall into stereotypes. You know, you have there's the oldest son, Nateum. I'm reading this off Wikipedia because I couldn't remember the names. The oldest son, Nateum, is like he wants to live in his father's shadow. Like Jake doesn't have a family; he has a unit. He treats them all like Marines.
He does.
Makes them call him sir. He
One
gives
of
them
them
orders.
refers to him as Lima Charlie. I'm like, oh, he's LC, Lance Corporal.
So he's Nateum is very much trying to live in that shadow of follow the orders and be the good son. Then you have the second son, the 14-year-old Loak. He's more rebellious. He's kind of playing up because he's 14. That's what they do. Then you have Kitty. Is it Kitty or Kitty?
It's Kiri. It's Kiri.
Kiri.
But my first watch, I was certain it was Kitty, and I called her Kitty for like months.
And that's Sigourney Weaver. We'll circle back around to that in a minute. But she's the adopted daughter, but they don't really play much on that because she's just part of the family as well, and I love that. And she's just very much the nature girl. She's really in vibing with everything going on naturally. And then you just have the kid. They have Tut. Who's just this little child who's tagging around. She's 8. And then there's the other kid is then there's in the ocean people, they have kids as well, and there's like the love interest daughter of the chiefs, Rhea. She was great. And then you have like her brother who's a dick. And then they have her brother's friends who were also dicks. Those were the kind of like, yeah, you can see this is like rival gangs, and you know what's going to happen. They're going to be at odds. One's going to pick on the other, but they're going to gel towards the end because they'll have to. And that happens.
Yeah, it's basically Thundercats West Side Story for a minute.
Sure, it's Grease. It's everything you've ever seen with kids in it. But there is one other child we haven't mentioned, which is Spider, who I think it could be my weak link. Which he's played by Jack Champion. This isn't Jack Champion's fault. This is making an Avatar film takes a long time. So casting children in it is always going to be tricky because children grow pretty quickly. And
and he's the only one that we see as a human.
Yes, he's the human one. He was, I think, 13 when they started filming this, and
so he's what, 27 now?
well, he's 18. Which right. I feel like he seems a lot older than that in this film. He feels like he's in his early 20s. But the character
Yes.
is written to be like 13, 14, and he just grew, and then they had to shut down because of COVID. And I think one of the ways they managed to start filming this again was James Cameron basically going to the authorities and saying, "I have to keep filming. Well, this kid's going to be too old," and they're just going to convince people to let him. So, which I love. Um,
I
uh,
wonder too if that's why we've got like the Tarzan action so much from him, because especially in certain parts of the film, he is always on all fours
yes. Well, I mean,
and crouched.
it is very much a Tarzan exist. He's like Tarzan meets Owen Wilson in the Royal Tenenbaums, where he's
Oh
just
my
this.
goodness, it's amazing.
He's Eli Cash. He wants to be a Tenenbaum. He wants to be another he, but he's just he was born. He's Quaritch's son. He was born on Pandora, but you can't put babies in cryo sleep. And all the other humans left, including his mother, presumably, or maybe she passed away during the events of Avatar One. I don't
Well,
know.
Pandora will eat your eyes for jujubes.
Sure.
So
And so he was just this baby stuck there, being raised by the few humans that survived or that stayed, and uh, the native Pandorans, the Navi. Uh,
I thought it was an interesting concept though. And like you said with Cameron with writing characters with broad strokes, he does the same thing with his plot and his story. But I thought that Spider specifically and Kiri were the most interesting of the children. So
yes.
we've taken on these essentially orphaned children as their own, which is really lovely. But to have the complexity of their backgrounds, which we find out with Spider about halfway through the movie, which definitely makes him more interesting, it definitely adds a complicated element, and it could have been delved into a little bit more. I feel like they definitely went deeper with that with Spider, but I don't think it was as effective as Kiri.
I agree. I feel like this is only the second of at least five, maybe more of these films. I mean, they make a lot of money, so they keep making them, and I'm happy for that. So I feel like the Spider Quaritch relationship will be expanded upon in future films because I mean, how this one ends with like Quaritch basically saves Spider from being killed by Neytiri, and then Spider saves Quaritch from drowning, and then just Spider abandons Quaritch on a rock. That's not the end of their relationship.
No,
There is
no, it's
a lot
not.
to unpack there, and I like that it's not all tied up with a bow and like, hey, you're my dad, I respect you, or hey, you're my son. Or it's I like that
It's far more complicated. Yeah,
there's
yeah.
distance still to travel, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with that.
Well, and
Similarly,
isn't that interesting to find out that you have been orphaned, you've been raised by a family that's taken you in, and I mean, you're going to feel like an outsider, you're going to feel different. But to find out who your father is the enemy on top of it. But then even he is in the body of an avatar.
yeah,
I mean,
he says like,
it's a
"This kid's
lot.
nothing to me, not even the same species." Like, right, but
Yeah.
you could argue you're an uncle or a brother or something because you both came from the same guy's DNA.
Yeah.
It's uncharted territory, and there's some connection there. But yeah, similarly, um, Kiri Sigourney Weaver, she is Sigourney Weaver's character, Dr. Grace Augustine from the first film. She didn't survive that film, but she became pregnant at some point somehow, and they don't. I love that there's just one line of dialogue where like. This is Kiri. She's Grace's daughter. She became pregnant somehow. I don't know. Moving on. Never gone back to.
I know. I know. I know. I know. And you know what? Okay, I'm so glad you're good with that too, because some people are like so angry. Why didn't they explain it? I'm like,
I'm on
listen,
board.
they addressed it. They said, look, this is just how it is, and we're not going any deeper with it. So let's move on and not linger here. I actually appreciate that.
Yeah, because that's
it's
not.
an agree-
This film
it's
is
an
long
agreed
enough.
moment. Yeah,
It,
it's an agreed moment. This is the way it is. We don't have an explanation. So let's
they
just
have
have it.
yeah, they have one little moment later on where like, who do you reckon your dad is? I bet it's Norm, and she's just so offended. Like, oh, Joe
I
David Moore.
love
Oh, I'm gonna throw up in my mouth.
Norm, though. I would not be ashamed of Norm at all. That I did. He really didn't have a place in this, and I understand that his role wasn't big. But I love Norm, and I wish that we had a little bit more.
Yeah, but people like Joe David Moore, Dilip Rao, CCH Pounder, and what's his face? Giovanni Ribisi all have like little cameos essentially from, hey, we're still here, we're still hanging around.
Yeah.
But I really hope Ribisi comes back in a
Me
future
too.
film.
He was so foul in the first one and just absolutely delightful as a bad, bad man.
Look at all that cheddar. It's just
Yes.
well, I guess that unobtainium's not the thing anymore. They're
I
not. They're
mean,
not.
we just don't want to say it after it's been made fun of for so many years.
He wasn't the first one to use it. Unobtainium has been in films and books long before Avatar came out. It's just
It's just
this fictional element that should have remained, should just be forgotten because it's such a stupid name.
well, it's a bit on the nose, but I mean, so are a lot of things here. But that's not what we're here for anyway. We're not here for the groundbreaking story and characters. We just want good characters. We want characters that we care about, which we do. And they made me care about kids, alien or no, they did. And then we had another Save the Whales about. I mean, there's a lot of that investment. And I recently just watched Aliens again, which
Of course you
happens
did. Yes.
fairly frequently. It's me, but I had rewatched it recently, and one of the things that Cameron does so well in that movie, I'm like, every single character, even the characters that have one line, are memorable in that movie. Basky, where's Basky? I mean, they're not like fully fleshed out characters, but you don't want any of them to die. You care about them, and
And
that's
they
what a
all
lot
die.
of yes, they do. They do. And that's not the case in this particular story, but there is, it's not done as well either, but there's still that element of caring about all the characters, which makes that hour-long Titanic fight sequence really, really worth its salt, because you do care about the characters. You don't want any of them to die.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And
one of them does. One of the children does die, the oldest son, and I feel like when he did die, I was okay with that because he was the blandest. Seems harsh, but he was
yeah,
he
he
had the
was.
least to do.
He did. And also, I mean, I don't know if this was the case for other people, but I saw that coming a million miles away.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, it was very predictable. It was obvious that that was going to happen. It wasn't a shock. It wasn't a surprise. It was, oh, okay, so this is where it is. That
Yeah.
eventuality was coming, and it was sad.
There were
But
enough. There were
I was
enough
more
scenes.
sad for Neytiri than I was for the kid being gone, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
there were enough scenes of Jake telling his son, like, "You're supposed to look after your daughters, your sisters, look after your brother. You need to stay and look after them." And so he stays and he dies.
And
I mean,
clearly, Jake and
like-
Neytiri were Gen X parents.
I think Jake a terrible father.
He's
He's just
not. No, he's not. He means well. He really
he's
does.
trying. He's
He's
present. He just needs to get out of that army mindset.
and Neytiri is just completely feral through the whole thing, which I love.
Yeah,
She's
she's the strongest performance, I think. So,
yes,
like when that grief, it's so human but feral, but she's I don't know how to describe it. It's just incredible. It's so impactful. Coming through
and
this blue alien face still.
I know it cuts deep, and that's well, I mean, Zoe Saldana is absolutely amazing. But I mean, that's part of what made me fall in love with the first movie too, was her performance. I am also a fan of Sam Worthington. I'm very sad that we have not seen much of Sam Worthington. He is on top of my generic white guy list that I like. But
Is that a long list? Or?
no, it's really not. But he's on the top of that list, and I've always wanted to see him do more with his career, because I did like him in Terminator Salvation and I liked him in Avatar. But Zoe Saldana is the one who stole every scene she was in the first film, and this one as well.
I mean, I agree with Saldana. I'm less keen on Worthington. I haven't seen all of his films, and Terminator Salvation is the Terminator film that I cannot stay awake through. I have never finished that film. I've tried several times, always fall asleep. I just can't.
That's
Can't
bonkers.
stick
It's
with it.
not, it's not a great movie, but I love watching it. It probably has the best sound in any movie I've ever heard. It's incredible.
I mean,
The
I
sound
only
in it.
finished I only finished Genesis because I saw it in the cinema. Like I can't.
Oh,
I've never tried to watch that again since.
Don't do it.
I never will.
I have so much rage about that movie. I could go on for hours and hours and hours about Genesis. And I thought that I would never hate something more than Rise of the Machines. But Genesis stands there at the apex of films that I hate. Absolutely, positively hate.
I don't hate Rise of the Machines. I love Dark Fate. I thought Dark Fate was
Dark
great.
Fate was great.
It's
Dark
awesome.
Fate was so much fun. Dark Fate was wonderful. That was a delightful surprise. I had absolutely nothing, no expectations whatsoever, and then I was just absolutely giddy at the end of it.
I'm the guy who prefers Dark Fate to Tito. So
oh well, we'll have to part ways.
I understand that's an insane opinion, but the opening scene of Dark Fate undoes my main problem with Tito, and that's all I'll say to avoid spoilers.
Fair enough.
So, they get rid of that problem straight away. Anyway, back to another James Cameron film sequel. So yeah, Worthington and Sully, we talked about them. How did I think Sigourney Weaver playing a 14-year-old as somebody who is considerably older than a 14-year-old does such a great job. She was 73 making this.
Yeah.
Does not look 73. Looks fantastic. But playing a 14-year-old, and she does it so well. She's having so much fun. This is the kind of role that she'd never be given these days because she's in her 70s and this is a teenager. But she just inhabits it so well. I feel like it would have been if she'd been nominated for an Oscar, which I think was some there was some discussion at the time, but it didn't come around. But I think it would have been completely justified.
I agree, and I fully admit to, not being completely objective when it comes to Sigourney Weaver, but I was very skeptical when I heard that she would be playing the role of Carrie. I mean, immediately when, again, I tried not to read too much about the movie or anything, the making of, and all the years in preparation before, because I didn't want to have it ruined or it not actually ever get made. So I didn't want to invest in it. But I'm like, why is Sigourney in this? I have to find out. I need to know because, we can bring people back, certainly. I mean, they did it with Stephen Lang and Quarrick, but I just couldn't figure it out. I'm like, she can't do this. This doesn't work. And it absolutely worked. She was the heart of the story.
Yeah, very much so.
She really was. And like you said, there was this joyous wonder and youthful just energy that came from her. And I appreciate voice actors anyway, but I mean, they're still using her face and her expressions too. It's phenomenal. It is a beautiful mix of technology, of storytelling, and just great acting on top of it. I'm right there with you. And people will probably say we're crazy. Well, I will say I don't care about your opinions, sir or ma'am.
The fact that it is just Sigourney Weaver playing her own daughter, essentially, makes me think that all the speculation of, who do you reckon Carrie's dad is? It's going to be some kind of, it's just, she's like the daughter of Awa. Well, it's like artificial not what am I talking about? It's like the virgin birth kind of thing. It's just like the energy of the planet.
It's
that kind of thing.
Be that. I hope it's not that.
It's another Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. Okay, I can go with Anakin at least. Yeah. Maybe
she's going to bring balance to them.
She might turn out that she hates sand. She doesn't know about the high ground. Bad things will happen. Just teach her about okay, let's not go down the Star Wars path because I won't come back from that one. But yeah, I do not like the idea of that, but I can see that that's probably the direction it's going in. And fair enough. There's really nothing that they could toss in that would make a whole lot of sense otherwise.
Sure.
I would be happy to be proven wrong, though.
When she's kind of plugged into the underwater tree and making those giant sea urchin things just suffocate those guys that are attacking them, I'm thinking, there's some dark side there a little bit. That's these guys have it coming. They're trying to kill him, but that's not a pleasant way to go. These giants are just being consumed by sea anemones.
Well, I mean, let's be fair too. I mean, this is what you get with a lot of James Cameron's films. They always are. The military is bad. Corporations are bad and evil. Nature's good. We're going this wrong way. Violence is bad, and at the same time, we definitely exploit violence in a way that's entertaining and fun in all of his movies, and people really die in extraordinary ways. And I enjoy it, but it is that mix of constant light and dark But her, yeah, we'll we'll
But
we'll, we'll see.
he 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 makes all the army stuff look kind of cool. Is a problem.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
not into guns or the military or anything like that at all. Uh, so it's like I am very much on his side of let's save the planet. It's sort the military. But when they open up that big ship and they have the crab suits, the crab mechs. That's my favorite thing in this whole film. Is they have
Yeah.
these giant mech suits that look like crabs. They have one big claw one side, a small claw the other side, and they just propel through the water. And they're snippy, snippy, snappy, snappy. And what more of this, please? So much more
It's
of this.
so cool. Even, and we're just going to call them whales because let's be
Yeah,
honest,
sure.
they don't. They're whales. Even when they're showing the part two, and this is horrible, by the way. It is extremely upsetting to watch, and it's supposed to be, and it should be. But when they are attacking or they're taking the mother whale who has the calf with her,
Yeah,
and they're using the harpoons to catch it. It is horrible, but at the same time, I'm absolutely fascinated by the process.
yeah. There's the harpoons with the balloons on them that just
Yeah.
make them float. Yeah, which I mean that feels very much like the barrels floating in Jaws, just like
Yes.
blown up to a giant scale. But that sequence, the whale hunting, I think that's gonna it's gonna prevent repeated future watches of this film. That's just upsetting to watch.
It really is.
Because so for those of you who haven't seen the film and just kind of following along, the sea tribe there's these whales. They're when we say whales, these guys are huge. They're huge. Their design is cool. Uh, they have like a turtle skin on top. They've got these big horns at the front. They got like four flippers, four eyes, a mouth that opens like the predator. It's amazing. Love it. And it's a huge mouth that like a ship could fit inside.
Yes.
Um, and they're like brain USB port things at the back of their throat. Right. So the ocean Navi, who there is a name for the tribe. It's the Metcaina. It's the Metcaina clan.
Very good.
They they kind of bond. So there's like a one-to-one Metcaina to I think Slocoon is what the whales are called.
Tokun. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
they kind of bond. They call themselves spirit siblings, spirit sisters, and it's such a bond. It's like a member of the family kind of thing. And so every like migration cycle they come around and they go out and they swim and they talk and they it's a beautiful sequence. And the leader of the Metcaina is Kate Winslet's character Ronal, and she has this bond with this new mother of the Tlocoon, and that's the one who is hunted because the Quaritch is trying to draw out Jake Sully, etc. So we find out that these aren't just animals; these are like family members. They've bonded with them,
Yes.
and then we see one being hunted, and it's the mother, and it's the daughter, and it's a horrific hunting sequence, and
It.
it's killed, and then we find out that these aren't just animals; these are smarter than people. They have complex language. They have poetry. They write songs. They have like a whole culture to them. Mathematics, philosophy. They, and then you find out what they're being killed for is this
Yeah.
giant creature the size of a building has this one vial extracted from inside its brain of this amber liquid called oh, I wrote it down.
I don't remember. It's not
Amrita.
yeah, it's close to unobtainium in its obviousness, but it's
Yeah,
not.
it's like ambergris, I think is what it's close to. So Amrita, you'd draw it out. It's about 12 inches, 30 centimeters long vial, and that is all they need from this thing. They didn't just discard the rest of it, and that stops human aging, which is
It's too close to
sickening.
reality, is what it is.
It's
It
sickeningly
really,
close.
yes. I mean, and for someone like me too, what do I watch if I'm not watching TV or movies? The likelihood of you catching me watching a nature program or watching animals or some kind of anything that's narrated by David Attenborough is high probability, and I will watch those shows and I will bawl my eyes out. But that's reality. I watch these movies so I can have some vindication from reality, and I read books like this, and sometimes that's when I go, oh gosh, this is really really too much reality in my fantasy. Can we code it over just a little bit
Yeah.
more? Can we just dress it up a little bit so I get the same purpose and I still get upset, but I don't have to lose myself in it. And again, as Jay said, this entire sequence it's brilliantly done. It really, really is. And it's entirely effective. But my complaint is that it is too effective.
Yeah, yeah. Like I watched this with my wife. She's only seen it the one time. I've seen it 3 times now. I don't think she ever wants to watch this film again, just because of that sequence.
I
And I
don't
get it.
blame.
Yeah. It's hard to watch. And it's just aggravating. It's just like you said. It's so realistic. Like they just people want to live forever. People want to stay young. It stops aging.
Well, and
Uh,
then it's the disregard for life and life beyond them, not bothering to understand it on any other level, and then just discarding what's left. We've taken what we
yeah.
wanted, and here we're just going to leave this here because that's all it is. It's garbage to me now.
That vial is worth $80 million dollars for that one vial.
Yeah.
They say that that's what's funding everything, funding the whole move to Pandora, all of the research. It's all just paid for by that. So for humanity's sake, they need it as far as because like Earth is dying. Uh, Earth isn't dying. Earth has been made
They,
uninhabitable by humans.
yep.
Earth will be fine. Um,
Earth will always be fine. Or Earth will
but
always be fine.
yeah.
People will not be. We are the destroyers of our own life, not
Humans have
not the
driven
planet.
themselves, yeah, humans have driven themselves into the brick wall that many of us saw coming a long way back. We just kept on going straight and ran into it. And hey, now we need to build a new road or take one from someone else. And that's what's going on here. And oh, these people just have, there's just a beautiful, pleasant life going on. And the humans are just trying to destroy it and take it and burn it down. Great, happy times, wonderful. So we have 3 more films for the Navi to just kill all the people,
Which
just nuke them
which
from orbit.
again too, it's effective, it works. So when after we've touted that these are all peaceful people and they don't fight unless they must or they have to, and they all live symbiotically together on this planet, in this world, and in their own tribes. So yes, you would really, really have to poke the bear a lot to get them to come back and fight and show violence at the end. I get that, I really do. But it's awful. It's really when they're going to the villages and burning the villages and the way they treat. Oh gosh, it's awful. It's just it's awful. It's difficult. It's difficult to go through. It really is. And it's after you get all of this beauty beforehand. You get an hour of just their way of life. And and you
Yeah,
want and you want to be there. You want to be a part of it. And that's why this movie is 3 hours and 15 minutes long, and that's why you can't cut any of the middle out, is because you need all of that for the end to matter
I
and have
completely agree.
Titanic battle sequence.
Yes. So I mean, and like even without we're already against the humans and in favor of of Jake and his crew. We don't need like, hey, here's more reasons why. No. So, but Quaritch, Stephen Lang's Quaritch, another guy who's having a fantastic time. Another one where they have that kind of one line of, uh, I, I'm not gonna die. He's recorded a video for his own clone, and he's watching the video, and he's like, they're making me record this. I'm not gonna die. This is gonna be fine. But I'm just doing this anyway. You're me. You're my clone. Yada yada yada. And of course he's dead. So that's delightful. Just watching one of those being recorded by someone who didn't want to record it. So Stephen Lang having a wonderful time. Again, he's also like playing a younger version of himself, I guess, because this Navi clone is younger. He is he's the bad guy, but he's one of those like boo hiss bad guys you kind of like to see being a bad guy. He's
Yes,
entertaining on screen, so it's like
yes.
I don't want you to die in this film because they can't have another clone. So you need to keep you around to continue being the bad guy, and in like 3 or 4 films time, you'll turn around and you'll be the good guy and make some heroic sacrifice as you push your son out of lava as you fall into it yourself. That kind of thing. So
Well, yes, and the first film, if there were people that were like, no, I don't like James Cameron movies, or no, it just looks like a big bunch of Thundercats in space and blah blah blah. One of the arguments I would use was Stephen Lang's performance in the first one. It's worth watching just to see that, which, by the way, Michael Biehn was considered for that role. I do not recall why he didn't end up playing him. And I love Michael Biehn, but Stephen Lang is perfect. And Michael Biehn
yeah,
can play that edgy, dark guy. We saw it in The Abyss. He was just a villain in Mandalorian in season 2. He's great, but Stephen Lang steals every single moment he's in this movie. And like you said, you can tell he's just having a good time. He is enjoying the out of playing Quadric. And I was equally happy because I was happy that he was back, but I also was like, damn it, everybody is in so much trouble.
And he's got exactly a team now.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, he's got an avatar body. He's got a bunch of goonish guys with their military sunglasses. Yeah, they've got all of these things and all of these resources. And yeah, I'm like, this is awful. But again, in a good way. He is such a great villain. And it's a villain that you love to hate. And when he's on the screen, it's all good. It's all good.
I feel like we're seeing the start of his turning around to appreciating this way of life, though, because like Spider tags along with him and his Groot acts as like an interpreter. He isn't tag along; he gets dragged on, and a guide. And so Spider's basically showing him all the highlights of the first film, and how like Jake Sully fell in love with this life, and I feel like Quaritch is starting to do this as well. So the whole going up and catching the Banshee. And just that how elated he is after he's done it. After like he falls into, I felt. Do you know how high up where they catch the Banshees is supposed to be?
It's in the clouds. It's where the instruments aren't supposed to work anymore.
It's 1.6 miles up.
Ah!
It's 2.6 kilometers above ground, and so he like falls off of a rock trying to catch this Banshee, and his whole crew are like, well, I guess we need a new leader, and start to walk away, and then he just reappears, and he's like, because he's got the Banshee. And that's got to be a start of, this is pretty cool. I can't go home now. I'm a big blue guy. I don't need big blue guys on Earth. I'm going to stay here and rock this place.
He is, but that's how he was when he was in the mech. In the first one, too.
That's true.
He's all about this life. He's all about being a Marine. Marines don't die. They go to hell and regroup. Yeah, that is him. 10 million %. He loves it. He's a junkie for it. I don't think he actually has any mission he cares about. And at the end, too, yes, he has his goal to get Jake Sully, but how much is that just a rematch? It's really, really just masterful amounts of testosterone.
Yeah, because like he finds out Neytiri is the one who actually shot him. And so he has that little grudge, but the main grudge is Jake Sully. Like, I'm after like that guy. Yeah, she killed me, but you.
He's a traitor.
Yeah. So that's. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing more of Stephen Lang in the future films. When you first saw this, did you know which role Kate Winslet was playing?
No, I did not.
Same.
And I had to look it up at the end too. I thought she might be playing Ronal, but I wasn't 100% sure. Even afterwards, I picked up on Cliff Curtis right away. His face is very distinct, and his voice is too. So I picked up on him, but I had no idea that was Kate Winslet officially until after I saw it and looked it up.
She's doing her accent thing, and I mean, I've watched like pretty much every Kate Winslet film. I'm missing a few of the most recent ones, but I've reviewed like them all on my site. It was just a little project I was going through. I love Kate Winslet. I'll watch her in anything. I have. Even in like terrible films.
Yes.
She's done a lot of terrible films, but she's always great. She's always doing some kind of an accent, varying degrees of success. But here, she's having a ball at a make-believe accent.
Yes.
And she makes it believable. And you know, the legend of she broke the acting diving timing record whilst making this. She's underwater for 7 minutes, holding her breath, just hanging out, sitting down underwater. Like, okay. You didn't need to do that, but great, good for you. But yeah, I didn't know. I feel like if you're told at the end that Winslet is in this film, there's not a lot of roles to pick between as to which one it's going to be, and so it's going to be Ronal. But watching the film the first time around, I didn't click. So it was she just disappears in that role. I think she does a great job.
She does. She's one of. I'm with you too, though. She's one of my favorite actresses. I've loved her for a very, very long time, and like you said, she's been in many bad movies, but she's good at every single thing she does.
Yes, Wonder Wheel is a bad film. that no one even knows it exists. That should remain the
I
case.
was gonna say I've never seen it, so
Collateral Beauty, a terrible film I've complained about on this show recently. In the Divergent film, she's in a little chaos. She's in movie
oh yeah,
goddamn 43.
the movie 43. There are parts of that movie that I absolutely love.
Is it her going on a blind date with Hugh Jackman with testicles on his chin? Because it shouldn't be.
That part is upsetting.
That's the
But
opening. That's how they start the film.
I know, and my husband loves that movie.
Oh no.
Mostly there's a scene that involves poop that I can't do.
Oh, okay.
that
Sure.
whole bit I can't. However, the leprechaun part, that I laughed so hard it hurt. So there are some redeeming moments in it.
This is
Hugh
not a
Jack-
tangent I wanted to go on.
Nope, me either. Let's leave Hugh Jackman's balls in the soup alone.
Yes, abandon ship.
Shin balls.
Indeed.
I just wanted to clarify
just-
for anyone that hasn't seen it.
Closing that tab forever. Good. So yeah, Cliff Curtis in it as well as Kate Winslet's husband, or partner, and he's great too. Edie Falco has a small role in this one as the lead bad guy.
Yeah, she was great though.
She's in a mech suit drinking coffee with a mech suit. Like she's in a
Yeah.
mech and she's using the mech to hold a coffee cup. Great. Perfect. No notes. And the only other two, like, we haven't really talked about the kid actors, but they're all good. You know,
They did
there's
great.
not much
Yeah.
to say. But the hunters, I want to talk a little bit about the hunters. So we have Scoresby, Mick Scoresby played by Brendan Cowell, and his doctor, Dr. Ian Garvin played by Jermaine Clement. Kind of hated Scoresby a little bit. I know you're supposed to, but he's very
Yes.
much a horrible person. Who like, he's Australian. I can't do the accent. He's are you guys trying to take my ship? I've got a quota to meet, and if you can't get out of it, get into it. And I kind of hated him. It's a different energy to the rest of the cast, so he sets himself out that way, I guess. But
Yeah. Well, we're going back to the corporate bad guys, but then, like you said, then we switch to these hunters, and it's a different kind of evil. It's worse, if anything. I don't know, but it is. It's a big shift. And the argument between him and Quadric right away too. It's kind of, well, I mean, there's obviously the display of dominance between the two characters there, but like you said, that line that was perfect. Well, all right, might as well lean into it. We're screwed. Yeah.
And Jermaine Clement was an interesting character because he's like part of the hunting crew, but doesn't want to be. He's a marine biologist. He's doing research on the Tlokuran. The only way he can do that research is by cooperating in the hunting of them. So I feel like he could have been the lead of a whole different story. Of just this real conflicted guy who, like, as he says, this is why I drink. Like the only he can get through the day is alcohol, just because he hates his life so much. And having Jermaine Clement, a very funny guy playing him, a New Zealander doing an American accent, despite the fact that his captain is Australian, I found that to be odd. He could just be from New Zealand, but he survives. I presume he might be in future films. He felt like part of the norm kind of role of like a good guy who's kind of here too. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. But it was great that we had Scoresby, because it meant that he got to be ghost shipped with the cable that comes through and chops his arm off.
Exactly.
So
it was quite lovely.
Yes, I mean the whole action climax. We love talking about it, but that was like when we have Kiri seeing enemy deaths. We have the ship turnover. We have all of the hyena on their like flying crocodile fish things, all like raising up and then diving in the water at the same time. You have the whale coming out and biting people, and the Scoresby getting his arm chopped off with the cable. I'm just like standing going, this is cinema. This is
Yes.
more of this. Where has this been?
It's absolute spectacle. It's absolute madness, and it's flawless to look at. I have big complaints always. This is nothing new. I'm a broken record here, but I'll continue to go on about it. I loathe lazy CGI. Leave it the hell out if you're not going to do it right. It takes me out of the moment. It ruins everything for me. If I see, oh, well, that's clearly computer right there. I'm not. And even older films. James Cameron makes films that last. Go watch the first Avatar. It's still perfect. It is incredible to look at and watch. Even Titanic. I just recently watched it because, as I mentioned, my 6-year-old is obsessed and he must watch it all the time. He goes around the house singing "My Heart Will Go On." I don't know what to do about it. But
Nothing. Embrace. Do nothing with it. There's nothing to do.
I'm just letting him have his joy. I'm just letting him have his joy. But it's this whole ability that he makes these movies that last. Terminator 2, it still looks incredible. Aliens, it still looks incredible because he knows when to use practical effects. He knows when
The Abyss.
The Abyss, it's beautiful. I mean, these movies still look incredible. And then you go see, and I hate to say it, but you go see some of these Marvel movies, and a couple years later, they look like trash.
Do you want to know why this is? So there's various strikes going on at the moment. There was recently a vote in the Walt Disney Pictures VFX house, visual effects house, to unionize. There was a 13-0 vote cast. There are only 13 people at Disney working on the visual effects.
Wow.
That's why it doesn't look great. It's so few.
But here's the thing. They put these movies out and they Jurassic Park it, they stamp it, they put a freaking price on it, and people are buying it. They're selling it, and they're not thorough about doing all of it. So they're making the money in spite of sending out stuff that is lesser quality. But as a film fan, I hate it. I know when I'm going to a James Cameron movie that, like you said, you're sitting there going, this is cinema. This is why I go to the theater. This is why I experience it. I call it, it's like the beer goggles version of cinema goggles, where it elevates the movie to a much bigger, better level than the movie might actually be. So this movie may be the storytelling, the plot, the characters, somewhere as like a 6 or 7. But you add in all of these incredible elements, and you add in this absolutely insane sequence at the end here, and this is something beyond what it even has a right to be.
And it costs more. I get it.
Yes, the time. It's really the time it takes too.
Sure. Like the budget for Way of Water is listed as $350 to $460 million. It made more than 5 times that. Like 6 times that. But that's not just because of the effects. That's because it's a sequel to the biggest film of all time. But it's worth it. It's worth putting that effort in. Pay the people. Give them the time to make it a good job. Like you and I love Jurassic Park. That's part of the effects. The CGI in that is still perfect.
It is.
30 years later.
It looks incredible. It's still the same experience I had going to see it the first time. And I remember that experience of going, it was like Grant's experience when he saw it. That's a dinosaur. I'm looking at a dinosaur. That's as close as we're going to get to that fantasy. And like you said, 30 years later, it still looks magnificent.
And it's so beautiful in this one. Not a second of The Way of Water looks fake. You completely buy into this world. This is all, which is like, these are 8-foot tall blue things on a flying whale. Like this shouldn't look real, but like the way their hair moves in the water, the way the explosions reflect upon their skin, everything just looks perfect.
It looks real. It looks real. You look into the forest and you can see the depth of it. You can see all of the details in the back, in the water. I don't have any interest in ever diving and going underwater. As far as I'm concerned, it's the same as flying. I don't belong up there. I don't belong down there. I belong in here on land. I'm a human. This is my thing. But it made me want to go underwater. It made me want to scuba dive and be terrified for however long it would be to go underwater and do that kind of crap. Even though that's probably not what it looks like. There's no glowing Iowa magic. But it made me fantasize about it. It made me long for it. And I think that's part of the reason I loved the first movie so much. It's not a new story. The characters aren't particularly new, but the world is. This is something none of us have ever seen or imagined, and it's absolutely beautiful. And even the violence is just incredible. I mean, the part where the littlest kid, Tuck, gets sucked down into the little water hole. I'm like, that looks too real. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Also kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go underwater. Drowning is not on the top of my list.
I found the way of water. It goes this way.
But yeah, it's absolutely magnificent, and I can't appreciate it any more, I think, than I do. These are the movies you show up for at the theater. These are the movies that are worth going to see and giving your money to, as far as that blockbuster popcorn flick is concerned. Top tier.
Where do you want the sequels to go? So we've
know.
had the forest people. We've now had the water people. There are other Navi clans out there, presumably. Do you want a volcano clan?
Oh, give me
the lava
all
fields.
day. Let's relive the end of Congo just for me.
Oh yeah. Let's get some talking gorillas. Let's get laser diamonds. Let's go. Let's get sesame cake.
That's exactly what we have to think about, though. It's not really about looking into different kinds of ecosystems. We have to start thinking about what other kind of resource that is exploitable that we could go to, because that's what the eventuality would be. They're going to go into the next resource that they can exploit on Pandora.
Yeah, well, I mean, we think they're going to give up on the Tokuns? The Tokuns? Because if it's so valuable, they're probably just going to regroup in hell and come back.
I guess so. I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't given it a lot of thought, and I think I kind of want to be in the dark. I want to be surprised. I don't want to think about it too much. I want to go in as blind as possible again. Do we know when the next one is coming out?
Hang on, I'll just have a look.
I was thinking that we were getting the next one had been filmed already. So
December 2025.
Oh,
I think 3 has been all but finished. Maybe they're just finishing off the effects. It's certainly all filmed. They shot it all, and they've shot, I think, a little bit of 4. I think it was a case of if 2 somehow didn't do very well, they would still release 3, but wouldn't make 4 and 5. 2 did very well, so keep making these in perpetuity, I guess.
I don't know where they could continue with it. I really don't. I mean, for a third one, certainly. I feel like this works as a trilogy. I don't know how it can continue on and on and on. Are they going to go off Pandora eventually? Are they going to go further?
I guess at some point they'll have to pass the torch so that the kids are now leads, and Jake and Terry may not be in them anymore. They may pass away. I don't know.
That makes more sense as far as filmmaking goes, because Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana, and well, they're not old, but they're getting older. And Sigourney is, as you pointed out, 73 and magnificent, but she's still 73 years old. So yeah, you're probably right about that.
Well, I mean, how old's James Cameron? No, he's 5 wives old. I know that much. He's 69.
Yeah.
So he's. I mean, look at Clint Eastwood. Cameron's got 40 more years of directing ahead of him.
I hope he does. I sincerely do. I mean, obviously, I love him. I love his movies. I love what he does. I hope he stays around. And selfishly, I wish he'd. And that's not to say I don't appreciate or love the Avatar movies, but I'd like to see him do something else.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean,
one
he needs to stop trying to kill himself by going underwater.
I don't think that's going to happen. He really likes it there.
Right, but not everyone survives those trips. It's a dangerous place down there. As you say, we're not supposed to be there. And he keeps going back, and I get it. It's pretty, but finish your films.
Again, there's the fantasy of it. There's the fantasy of the unknown. But look how long he spent on Titanic. It was 10 years after he made the movie. We had the making of Titanic. The making of Titanic. And then he had I think it was National Geographic program where he sat there and debunked or attempted to debunk all of the things that people were complaining about in Titanic and saying that wouldn't have worked. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to play out. Do you have any ideas?
I don't. I mean, I'm here for any other environments they go to. I don't feel. I feel like they could go further up. They could do more sky-based stuff, I guess, which could still keep the whales as a the unobtainium of these films, but they try and defend them from the sky rather than from the water, perhaps. Because I mean, and I feel like Jake, he captured the most dangerous banshee that they had, so he's like the best banshee rider of the Na'vi until they meet this clan where they all have giant banshees, and he's just some little kid, and he's gonna like start from the bottom and learn a whole new. It's every film's gonna be the same at this point, isn't it? They go somewhere new, they learn a whole new way of life, attack,
Yeah.
defend,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I'm fine with as long as it's interesting and it looks great. I'm fine with that. Just keep
Or maybe they will find a way to make them live forever so they can
it.
continue
That's
on.
it.
Maybe there's immortality is within their grasp.
I mean, they just need to get one of those vials from the tycoon. And there we go. They've got it.
Or maybe Kiri is the chosen one of Iowa and somehow liberates all of them for
Yeah.
eternal life. I don't know. I really don't know. It can go either way. There are so many different aspects of it. It's not like it's a really, again, it's not like a really, really deep, complex storyline. So like you said, they can just repeat it over and over again. And I assure you, they will be taking my money every single time.
Sure,
Take it,
yeah.
take it, take it. I'm throwing it at you.
Me too.
But but yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. Hopefully I'll be pleasantly surprised.
We'll just scan through our notes some of the bits we didn't get to. I liked where Quaritch breaks his own skull with his bare hands. He finds his own body. That's
That was hardcore.
it looks Shakespearean until it doesn't. It looks badass. When Kiri is just lying in the grass and it has a heartbeat, that's pretty cool. When they're building the new like settlement, as much as we hate the humans in this film, they have these spider building robots like swarm assemblers. I liked them; they were cool. When they capture Spider and they torture him, that was a harrowing sequence when he's in like that the light spinning around him in the torture chair. Didn't need that. Some quotes that I liked when they get to the Metcaina and Cliff Curtis is like, "Teach them our ways; they do not suffer the shame of being useless." Is a nice way of putting it. Just like it's a nice subtle dig. He did that well. I pray for the strength. I will not pluck the eyeballs from my youngest son. Was one I liked from Neytiri. And when Kiri when she has like her seizure and they bring her back and Norm and Diddy Brown, who I'm sure has a character name, Max Patel, when they arrive to try and help and they're not doing anything, and Neytiri is just like, "Out! You have done nothing!" And she delivers that so well. So I like that moment.
I liked we had a big one in the first film too when they were attacking Home Tree. That Quadric was on drinking his coffee, which by the way, apparently coffee drinking calmly in the moment of whatever evil is being planned or plotted is like the last 20, 30 years of the villain eating the apple or cutting an apple with a knife. It's the new thing, at least for Cameron films. But the ship that he was on, the flying ship, that huge one, I'm like, this is so fucking cool. Well, they upped the ante when they pulled out that monstrosity to hunt the poor, sad whales. But that was so cool. I was just lapping up the whole moment of it pulling out. And I'm going, that's going to fly. That shouldn't fly. It's going to fly. I can't wait for it to fly. And I know all of James Cameron's flying stuff all looks the same too. But I don't care. It's still really cool. It was great.
Excellent. Yeah, this is just a great film. It's a little long. It's just being in the world. I found it hard to find. My third viewing was piecemeal. Minutes here and there to get it done for this podcast, but I had a great time the whole way through. So good.
Me too.
Heather, do you want to know how this film is like Deep Blue Sea?
There's water.
I mean, I have a list. A comparison list.
Give me your list,
Okay.
please.
There's a big exposition dump near the start. Helicopters explode. There's scientists. Someone self-records their legacy. Which Quaritch recording to his clone instead. It's not an omelette recipe, but it's close enough. There's a helicopter airlift. The group splits up with one character, Spider, being separate from the rest. They fly into a storm. They fly into a new area. There's a tour of an aquatic area. It's a world of gliding monsters. Felt apt for the undersea world. There's sea creature wrangling. There's underwater creatures that are smarter than you think they would be. Uh, their buildings are burned down. There's an underwater hunting sequence. There's a prison break. Uh, this is a Deep Blue Sea 3 comparison. A sea creature recognizes a gun that's pointed to its head. Which is a comparison we don't often get.
No.
A boat explodes. Someone has their arm removed by a sea creature. And they are traversing flooded corridors in a sinking facility. So quite a lot similar to Deep Blue Sea. But
Yeah.
do you know how deep and how blue this film is? So Heather, as I'm sure you know, Deep Blue Sea is approximately 14.5 meters deep, which is, of course, 47.5 feet, and about 31% blue. I went through Avatar: The Way of Water and estimated how deep everything was at various points and how blue the screen was throughout. Do you think, on average, this film is deeper and/or bluer than Deep Blue Sea?
I think overall there's less water in the film, but I definitely think it goes deeper.
Now, it does go deeper, but this is on average. So, on average, given that a lot of the film takes place, well, some of the film takes place in space, and then and all the stuff at the start is in those floating mountains that are 2 kilometers up in the air. This works out on average 256.9 meters up,
Oh yeah.
which uh, which is about 842 feet. Not our highest film. This is actually the eighth highest. There are seven higher films than this on our. It doesn't take place a lot up there, and then there is a lot of deep stuff later
What's
on.
the highest? What's the highest? What's the
The
highest?
highest is Godzilla versus Biollante, which
Oh.
works out at being 4 kilometers up in the air, just because the entire closing credits are in space. If you take that out, it's just kind of a ground level film. And then you add those credits in, and it shoots up there. So that's more than double the next place, which is Cliffhanger, pretty high film, Airport 77, Con Air, Die Hard 2. You know, plain films that happen to have some kind of deep sea connection. And then Congo's pretty high, and The Misfits, another Rennie Harlin film, has some plain sequences. So Avatar: The Way of Water is a little lower than those, but a little higher than Rennie Harlin's Skip Trace. What about blueness? Do you think this is bluer than Deep Blue Sea?
No.
Well, it is.
It is. Oh
it
well, I
is.
guess all of the avatars are blue.
That's it. So Deep Blue Sea, 31% blue. Avatar: The Way of Water, 56.3% blue. So slightly bluer than Tentacles, a little less blue than The Reef Stalked. Just as this is our eighth highest film, this is our eighth bluest film. So that's nice. So
Symmetry.
yeah, 47 meters down remains our bluest film at 81%. That's not going anywhere because that's just entirely that's blue. It's not the whole thing. But Avatar, you have all these blue people throughout, but then the whole central hour and a half is so blue. There's like so many bits underwater where it's completely blue, and then there's blue scenery. It's a very blue film. It's a lot bluer. I thought it was going to be bluer, but they made the crucial mistake of having all the credits with a black screen. If they kept that at a blue screen, this would have been like 3 places higher in the ranking, I think. But
I'm
they
glad
didn't.
I know for the future that the credits screen is also included in
Yep.
this.
Yep, you got. I mean, that's the ones that are high up. They take into account 47 meters down. The reef, shark bait. They have blue credits. The shallows has blue credits. That's how you win. You keep it blue until the end. That's what. I don't know why filmmakers don't do it. They're just dropping points easy. They're easy points. Blue screen.
I would try and get as blue as I could. La da dee da da da. La da dee.
So, thank you for joining me. Let's talk about Avatar: The Way of Water. Has been delightful. What have you got to plug? Where can the listeners find you online and on paper?
Oh, yes, you can find me places. I've been doing podcasts for decades at this point, and I still am always surprised when I'm asked where people can find me. It's probably all those years of being a secret.
Don't find me. I'll run away.
No, I'll throw Chinese flying stars at your head. Either way, be deterred. Yes, you can find me on social media. You can follow me on Instagram under my author name, HB Walsh. And I occasionally post on there. I probably should more. Or you can follow me under Header Time 1981, which I mostly just post my running and fun stuff there. You can also find the podcast that I've been doing, which is so much fun. I'm doing a Buffy rewatch show with my friend Mark Armstead. You can find it on Rabbit Hole Podcast. It's called Word of Hellmouth. And if you like fantasy books without any kids and still lots of violence, even though it's like anti-violent, it's not. It's totally all about killing. You can find my book, The Prophecy Part 1 Lost, or The Prophecy Part 2 Bounty Hunters, on Amazon.
I can confirm they are great. And as is the podcast, and your co-host is Mark Armstead, who joined us for the Preacher's omelette recipe scene of Deep Blue Sea and Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Oh, fantastic.
So Mark, friend of the show. We'll have him on again sometime, I'm sure. Great. Well, thank you, Heather, for joining me. You can find everything Mark does over at moviesfilmsandflicks.com. You can find this podcast all over social media at Deep Blue Sea Pod, or email us deepblueseapod@gmail.com. I have a personal site, lifeversusfilm.com, where you can find all of my Kate Winslet reviews. I guess a lot of them are films I can't remember. I've never actually reviewed this one. I need to write a review for this one now, I guess. What's next week? What do people need to come back for next week? I can't remember. Come back next week for another relatively new film. Actually, a lot newer than this one. Dangerous Waters is a new film, all on a boat that features Saffron Burrows. So a lot of sort of Deep Blue Sea comparison there. Mark is on for that one. But as for Avatar: The Way of Water, thank you once again to my guest Heather Baxendale-Walsh.
Thank you for having me, the James Cameron specialist, on. I appreciate it.
And we'll get to Piranha Spawning and we'll get to Titanic. They'll both be covered, and your name is down next to both of them.
Yes! Joy!
I have been Jay Clure, and Heather, I deep blue see you.
I see you. I'm sorry, that was too good. That was brilliant.
We'll deep blue see you next week.